Welcome to the Legal Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Jolene, and with the Legal Learning Center, I help prospective law students save $300,000 on law school. To receive 3 money-saving strategies today, visit legallearningcenter.com/money. Today, we are joined by the founder of JD2B, Pam Schopp. She's an independent admissions advisor. She's going to share with us when you should be submitting your applications, how to prepare for the application process, and more.
Hi, everybody. I'm Pam Schopp, and I have a company called JD2B, LLC, and the goal of that is to help you navigate the whole pre-law law school application process. So I'm an independent pre-law advisor. They're the pre-law advisors tied to schools. I do a lot of the same things they do, but I'll do it more in depth. I'll do it if you don't know who your pre-law advisor was because you graduated years ago. All of those things, supplement your pre-law advisors, all of those different things to help you think through where you should be going, how you should be applying, keep you on schedule, and then actually making your decision where you should go at the end of the day.
Awesome. Okay, so I know that pre-law advisors on campus can have a wide variety of expertise and backgrounds, not necessarily even in law. So what is your background that helps you advise pre-law students?
Yes, that's the other thing I've learned. A lot of pre-law advisors, sometimes it's simply the, low man on the totem pole in the English department that gets stuck being the pre-law advisor.
Yes.
So I actually went to law school. I graduated from Northwestern in 2007, and I went straight through from undergrad to law school. I didn't take time off, but obviously lots of people do that, and I definitely can help you navigate that whole approach. Then I graduated and I worked for a couple years at a large law firm in New York City doing real estate work. Then I moved and did in-house stuff for about 8 years or so. But during that whole time, I was an interviewer for Northwestern. And I just loved working with the students so much and talking to them. And I found myself more and more wanting to give them advice as opposed to trying to review them and dissect should they be going to law school to Northwestern, if Northwestern should accept them or not. I found myself wanting to be like, oh, you should do this, or you should think about this school. And I'm not supposed to be selling them on another school. I'm supposed to sell them on Northwestern. So that's when I decided to leave and then start my own company doing it full time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about because I've been in that position before where I'm supposed to be doing one thing and it's like, but I just want to tell you about all this other stuff. Like, do you know? So exactly. Yes. That's so needed because really as pre-law students, I mean, everyone's confused. We only know what's on the websites. And again, the pre-law advisors at our colleges, I mean, some colleges don't even have pre-law advisors, but if we do have them, again, it's such a wide variety of expertise. You never know exactly what you're getting. And a lot of times it's more just information about deadlines and things like that. So
I find a lot of pre-law advisors, they get all the LSAC information and they forward that along, which is helpful, but it's more just general. Okay, here are deadlines. Here's a scholarship you can apply for. Oh, by the way, the LSAT Flex is going away now this summer and it's going to be back to the full force. Like informational, which is very helpful and critical. But so many pre-law advisors don't have that experience themselves of having gone through the process, truly understanding what law schools are looking for, how to package yourself in a way that can help you be more successful in getting into the school of your first choice.
Now, do you also help them with things like if they're saying they want something, like they want a certain school or a certain field, and then, everything that they're doing admissions wise seems to not align with that? Do you help them kind of see where they're maybe missing the direct line there?
I do. I feel like, I think my approach is I'm a person who I'm a shoot for the stars type person. So if that's your dream, if you're talking about you want to go into public interest law and yet you're working at a bank right now, I might talk about like, is that really, do you know what you think you're signing up for? Maybe you're not signing up for, you have this vision and maybe legal aid actually won't comport with, I see you have a penthouse apartment. Well, you're not going to be able to keep doing that. So there is a little bit of that, but when it comes to the actual school you're applying for, I'll be honest with you and say, right, Harvard is a it's a crapshoot for everybody. No one can guarantee, even if you have a 180 LSAT and a 4.0 GPA from Harvard undergrad, it's not guaranteed you're going to get in because it's so challenging and it's so hard. At the same time, I know for myself, I applied to Harvard Law School and got rejected, and I needed that. I had this dream of Harvard, and I wasn't even sure I actually wanted to go. It was just like, I think I'm really smart, and that's the top school, so clearly I should be applying there. And so I feel like for other people who are more like me, who I feel like you just feel like you have to apply to the best because you think you're the best. And even if you're not there, then at least you know you tried. Otherwise, you'll always be wondering, I wonder if I could have gotten in. I wonder if I could have gotten in. I mean, one of my friends in law school once said, like, oh, I don't know why you're at Northwestern. Why didn't you? I feel like you should be at Harvard. I was like, well, I applied and I got rejected. So they disagree.
Yeah, like crazy people over there.
Right, exactly. But I feel like, so for the people who want to really shoot for the stars, I know there are other pre-law advisors, independent and at schools, who kind of are more let's be very realistic here. Your grades are not going to get you in there, so you should only be applying to this next tier down school, whatever tier it is. And I feel like I'm one of the people who's like, you know what? You don't know, and you have to be in it to win it. And so I will help you package yourself. We will make sure your personal statement is as good as it can be, your resume. Do we need to take the LSAT again? Whatever it is, I'm here to help you put your absolute best foot forward. And at least then, if you got rejected, you tried your hardest. And in the meantime, obviously, by making that personal statement so awesome in your attempt to go to whatever school is your reach school, it's really good then for your solid schools. And I'll tell you where you should be going to, in the sense of, okay, these schools are where you're going to be a competitive candidate. So I feel like I'm never going to tell you not to apply somewhere, but I will be honest, say like, okay, that's a reach. So let's look here for your solid schools. And if you want to work with me just on the reach schools, and then you feel like you can carry over everything we're talking about on those reach schools into your kind of more competitive schools, that's fine by me. And then I just want you to get into law school and be happy. So, and feel like you at least tried. If there's a school you really wanted to try for, even though you're not really quite there, I'll help you do your best. So at least you can feel like the rejection is, a real one, not like, oh, because you submitted it late or something like that.
So, what are mistakes that you commonly see with applicants, like either misunderstandings that they have or something along those lines?
I would say actually, one of the biggest things is timing. I think a lot of people like to push it to the end, sort of like when you're in college and you wait till the night before to do your paper, and you can cram to study for the final, whatever it may be. And I feel like when it comes to applying to law school, that does not work. First off, there are the things you can't even control, getting your letters of recommendation and getting your transcript in. I'm like, those are lead time items that you can't stay up all night to get them in. So you need to get those people lined up and follow up with them politely and regularly until they're in. Then on the other side, you've got the stuff you can control, but you don't want to be rushing through your personal statement or suddenly realize, I feel like the classic, you need a personal statement, you have an addendum to explain something or other, you've got all that stuff done, and then you go to submit and it's like, oh, their application actually has 3 short answer questions I need to do. Like, yeah, so we should have checked that earlier because now it's midnight and the deadline's tomorrow and you just found out you need 3 short answer questions. So I always feel like check the applications, September 1, when they go live, check it. Your goal is to get everything in my book. Ideally, you want everything in by Thanksgiving. That gives you the best chance, particularly working with students who are applying to reach schools. You don't want to be the deadline's February 15th and you're submitting February 14th. And then there's a technical issue and suddenly you missed it altogether.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's amazing to me. I am not that person. I don't wait, but I was talking to somebody who wanted to apply for this cycle, and the deadline, the cutoff was, I think, June 1st, and they were going to take the June LSAT, the first LSAT they were taking. And I said, how's that work? You won't have the score. And they said, oh, no, they'll hold it for the score as long as I get the application in. I said, by June 1st for this year? Like, what are we doing here? Like, just.
And I feel like if you're applying to any even a competitive school, that hurts your chances of getting in, because the schools themselves say when it comes down to picking between 2 equal candidates, more often than not, they go to the one who got their application in first, because it shows a level of interest. It shows a level of just togetherness, that you have your act together, that you got it in early, that makes them feel like, okay, this is the kind of person we'd want in our school, not the person who slapped it together and threw it in the last second.
Yeah. Okay, so what services do you provide? I know you overall help them, but how do you help them? Exactly what do you go through and do?
Yeah, so top to bottom, pretty much anything related to your application. I don't do LSAT prep. There are other groups that do that so well, and it's such a detailed kind of special thing that, working your way through getting faster, or the test taking tips, all those things. And I mean, and LSAC has Khan Academy for free, and that's supposed to be fantastic. But other than that, pretty much everything. So starting from, let's talk about your scores. Where should you be applying? What do you want to do as a lawyer? If you're really thinking public interest based on what your scores are, CUNY is the number one public interest, has the number one public interest program. Where do you want to end up? That's another big thing I think a lot of people don't think about. They pull out the US News rankings and just pick, okay, my scores say these are the schools I should be applying to. Well, if you're looking at Kent in Chicago and New York Law School in New York, but you want to end up in Chicago, well, don't apply to New York Law School. You won't be able to get a good job in Chicago, and vice versa. So I think, people tend to not focus on the regional aspect, which really helps your job prospects later on. If you're at a lower ranked law school, but you want to stay in that city, you've had the whole 3 years to network, to build connections. Those law firms are familiar with that law school. And so you'll get a much better job than if you were trying to leave and go somewhere else. So all of that kind of thinking, strategizing at the beginning, but then all the way through. So we'll talk about your personal statement. We'll go rounds of drafts. You put something together. I'll mark it up from like big concepts of, you jump around, I can't follow you what you're saying here, all the way down to, okay, this comma should be here, not here. So all the way down to the grammar stuff. Then all the different other things you need to put together. We'll work on your resume. If you need an addendum, talking through that. Sometimes people feel like they, you have people, I feel like I have some students who come to me with like, and I think I need an addendum here, an addendum here, an addendum here, an addendum here. Like, okay, actually you don't need any of that. And if you throw in 6 addendums, the admissions officer who's reading your application will be really unhappy, because they're reading a lot of these and they don't want to read unnecessary things. You don't have to explain your parking tickets, but you should explain the car accident that you went to court to fight. So I think helping people think through all of those things. And then in my comprehensive package, I'll even keep following up with you on deadlines, making sure we'll come up with a schedule. So it's like, okay, in 2 weeks, you want to do this. In 4 weeks, we should be doing this, with the goal of getting your application in by November 15th, or whatever deadlines we've set. So I'll help you back into that schedule to keep you on track. And then once you get your decisions, then helping you figure out, where should you be going and how, the next steps from there.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot. That's great, because I think it's so overwhelming. What should I be doing and when? And yes, how do I follow up or do all the things?
Yes.
So when
I've
should
been
students?
trying to break it into bite-sized pieces, I think is helpful. Like, okay, right now we're just going to do this. Don't even worry about that. That's in a month. I think that's helpful for people to like stay focused. They come to me and they're like, I've got 10 things I'm working on. It's like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Don't even think about that. Just
Right.
do it.
No, that's the way to do it, because really there are a million things to do, but as you said, you're not in control of all of them. So get going on the ones that you're not in control of, that are going to take a while. And then what else is going to take you a while that you are in control of, like studying for the LSAT or whatever. And all those
And
things.
LSAT studying should be like a part-time job. You need to put a lot of time into that. So you don't want to be doing that at the same time as you're trying to finish up your personal statement. That's too much pressure. Like, I gave myself practically an ulcer applying to law school. Don't be me.
Yes, I applied before the internet was really a thing, which I think is a good thing, because you couldn't compare to all these people who are sharing on Instagram and YouTube and wherever. Oh, I just finished my thing and I just did this thing and I'm all done with this thing. And it's just like, wait, I'm not there yet. I was in my own bubble. I didn't know what was going on with the rest of the world. It was great.
Just did your thing. Exactly.
So when should people start The entire process. So just whether it's the LSAT studying or the looking into letters of rec, like when does that whole ball ideally start?
So actually, when I talk to freshmen and sophomores, I say actually the number one thing well, two things, that there are only two things they should be worrying about when it comes to law school if they're thinking about law school. One, their GPA. Study hard, do well in classes. That's the number one thing you can do to help yourself going to law school. Don't even think about law school itself. Do really well in your classes. And two, developing relationships with professors so you have options for your letter of recommendations. Those are my 2 pointers. So there's nothing, it's not that you can never start too early, but where should you be putting your energy into? If you're a freshman and a sophomore, it's your grades. And if there's a professor you feel a connection with, maybe try to take a couple classes with them, do a research project with them, something like that, so that they can write a really good recommendation for you when that time comes.
Yeah, I never use like office hours and that kind of thing in college. And I think that would have been great if I had had more of a strategic approach of this person might be a good one to write a letter of rec because I've taken 3 classes with them. And
Right.
actually, as I knew I was taking more and more classes with that person, maybe start the relationship instead of
Exactly.
just I think what I did was I was close to the TA who kept working for that person and then kind of backdoored the, hey, can I get a letter of rec? Probably the TA wrote it. So the
And
professor
that's, I
probably
mean,
signed it.
and that's actually another one of my letters of recommendation was from the professor who I was the TA for. So even if you're working a little bit while you're in college, being a TA is a great way to make a little money and really develop a great relationship with the professor who thinks you're obviously awesome at what you're doing. That's why they've asked you to work for them. And so they'll probably write a pretty good recommendation.
That's a good point. I'm always trying to explain to people that some jobs are just better than others. I mean, for example, if you're working in fast food, there's just some fast food, but there's some fast food that will actually provide scholarships for college and stuff like that. So I'm always telling them to look at these things so that if you're just looking for retail or whatever it is, there's some jobs that are better than others. And yeah, if you're just looking for an on-campus job, something that's easy and convenient, that TA position, yeah, has that extra bonus there.
Exactly. I feel like it's the work smarter, not harder.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. So that's good. I'm gonna add that to my little list there. Okay, so get the letters of rec early, get connections with people early, and yeah, work on those grades. Yeah, because that's really a huge part of your
And that's I know some of my clients come to me, they've graduated a couple of years ago, and it's like the GPA is what it is at this point. And now they're coming to me and they're so frustrated because it's like, okay, they have this awesome LSAT score. And they're like, I just wasn't focused in college. I just wasn't, whatever it was. I didn't even know I wanted to go to law school. I was 19, I had a really bad semester. I got sick, whatever it might be. And so some of these things, maybe we can write an addendum to work through and explain, but you can't write an addendum that just says I wasn't really focused. Nobody wants to hear that addendum, and
yeah.
I just see their options are being limited by this GPA that they kind of feel like if I had known back then that I wanted to do this, maybe I would have figured it out sooner. So I think that's a lot of that goes to, again, my advice. And I would actually say that even if you don't want to go to law school, whatever you do, get good grades because it just helps you so much more, whatever you might decide to do down the line. If you need
Yeah,
to take a year off and go party, do that. Don't party while you're in school and have your grades suffer.
yeah, I feel like there should be an automatic addendum for people who went to my college because we were number 3 party school in the nation. So we had a lot of people kicked out, a lot of people who struggled with their grades their first year because they were trying to balance it all. So,
Right. They're like, I've
it
got
could
a
be,
really big social life here.
yeah. So, just we should have a checkbox. Did you go to UCSB? Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, done. First year grades are waived.
Exactly.
Yeah, I forget the other 2 schools. I think it was University of Michigan and maybe something in Miami that beat us out as the top 2. So
Exactly.
all
That's
3
so
schools get a
funny.
waiver. So, okay, I saw on your website you also offer something related to school tours. What's that all about?
So what I do is just kind of as I travel around myself or through other things that I'm, doing, I actually will tour the law schools. I think it helps a lot of people approach law school differently than college. Everyone in high school is doing college tours and, visiting a million different colleges, and everywhere you go, starting in high school practically. I'm in New York, and I'll stop by Columbia. I'm in California, I'll swing by Pepperdine. You just kind of like, it's just part of, I don't know, the social conscious. Just as you travel and you're in high school, you should be looking at colleges. Would you maybe want to go to college here, or how about here? And nobody does that for law schools. People really just pull out the US news and like, here are the rankings, here's my grades, here's my LSAT score, connect the dots, okay, boom, here we go. And there's so much more. I mean, even within the same town, and schools that are ranked very similarly, they have very different personalities on campus. I went to Northwestern, and Northwestern and University of Chicago are ranked very similarly. They're both top 10. They're both right in Chicago, one downtown, one, up in Streeterville, but they have really different personalities, and just like you will succeed, I think, better depending on your personality if you went to one or the other schools. And it's the kind of thing you only get if you're actually walking on the campus and you're hearing the people talk about the schools and the thing that they, what does the school sell? And, Northwestern's, their big thing is we're friends and we all should be friends and we all want to be really nice. So if you are kind of a just like super cutthroat person, you're not going to enjoy that environment. You'll be like, what is with this like lovey-dovey nonsense? But if you're not a cutthroat person, which I'm not, like I totally thrived in that environment. So what I try to do is kind of tour different schools, get a feel for them, get a feel for how they want to be, what the kind of candidates they're looking for. And then even just the actual environment around. You're not going to be in the library the whole time, I hope. So what else is there to do? Are you in the middle of Nowheresville? Are you close to this, close to a city? Are you in a city? And then even beyond that, what are the job opportunities? If you're in a city, where can you be networking? Brooklyn, at first people might think Brooklyn Law School, like, okay, I don't know, that doesn't like, no, it's really close to New York City, but actually the location of the law school in sight of like the classrooms, you can see 3 different courts: bankruptcy, federal, and local, and like state court. So like all these options to like extern for judges in the middle of the semester, though, to go and hear cases. So I think even just that, to see like how close is it, how easy it is for you to get externships, internships, networking for jobs, all those different things that I feel like when you just are looking at the US news, you don't get that bigger picture of what the school is, what they're all about, and what different programs do they have, international study abroad programs, if that's something that you're interested in. Just that next level of information that you don't get if you're just looking straight at the rankings.
That's so needed. It's so important, because I can just tell you, LA schools, USC, you don't want to take 1 foot off a campus. You do not want to go to that neighborhood. Now Pepperdine, on the other hand, beautiful area, but you're going to have to drive. You have to have a car. There's no way you can go to that school without a car. You have to have a car, and you're going to be driving to any internships. There's nothing, not even really part-time jobs anywhere nearby.
Which is things you want to factor in, particularly if you're thinking you might work while you're in school, or again, any of the networking things, to realize, oh, add in the cost of a car and the time driving. Maybe I'd rather go to a school where it's right there and I'm just walking and I don't have to have a car. But then maybe rent's higher there. Like, who knows? All those things.
No, when I went to law school, the metro was not really, it was new, so it wasn't super efficient, but I was still able to use it to go most of the time from my home to the school, and then to internships. Not all the internships, but some of them. And it was great because I could study while I was on the metro.
Right. If you're driving, you're not studying.
Right. Exactly.
You get to go with podcast law school.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was so much better. It saved me so much time. And yeah, you just don't know. I had another friend who moved here for his 2L year, and he rented an apartment sight unseen based on the distance of, okay, in San Francisco, their BART system, okay, this many miles takes this long for me to get to law school. So he did the mileage, which is not the same with a brand new metro system in LA. And it wasn't even the metro, it was the Metro Link, which is a real train, right? So it's not even a subway thing. And so he had to do all these connections. It took him hours to get from his apartment. And like anyone in LA, if I name the city, like they're like, he got an apartment where? And he tried to go to basically downtown LA from there. Like it's just like, it's another universe. So Yeah, it's not all the same. Yeah, it's really hard when you don't come from the area or haven't spent time in the area and don't even have
Exactly.
time to tour it. Yeah,
But that's why I just feel like people are making decisions come, March and April of where to go, and it's kind of sight unseen for a lot of
yeah,
people. And so just to be able to kind of like, if I and pre-COVID, I actually went to the schools myself and took photos and would post them and do a whole thing. Now it's kind of like, okay, I look through their whole lookbook, but just to be able to hear someone else's perspective and kind of distilling down. I write, it's, one paragraph that I write on my review of my tour or just the school of the website. And so I have scoured their website. I've gone through their lookbook. I've gone through their extracurricular programs. I've gone through their part-time programs. That's another thing. A lot of people, do you want to do the part-time or the full-time? Which schools even offer that? So I have scoured the whole website and distilled it down into this one paragraph. All the parts where they're like, about us, we're downtown, we have cultural, and then here are our classes we offer, and here's our, all those different things kind of distilled down into just one paragraph that'll give you a little bit, a sentence here on each little aspect. They have
nice.
things that they highlight. How, I always end with how many journals they have, how many um, student groups they have, and clinics. Just those final things, but just to have it all in one place, I think is really helpful. I feel like it would be. I thought it would have been helpful to me. And so a lot of the stuff I put out there is things that I feel like I would have found that helpful. So I'll give it to other people.
Yeah, well, and that's where the best advice comes from, right? Is I wish I had known, or I wish I'd had this when I was going in.
Exactly.
And yeah, so and I think
I
that's a
think it
big
like goes to
difference.
what you were saying at the beginning of, right, a lot of pre-law advisors haven't done this themselves. So
Right.
how are they able, like, they can't help you avoid the pitfalls they ran into because they didn't run into any.
Right, exactly. I mean, I've definitely done things where in my past I've advised on things that I don't really know anything about. I worked at Universal Studios. Orientation was supposed to include a tour. I never got that tour. Um, and so the bathrooms were kind of far away, and people would ask, "Where's the bathrooms?" And I heard all my coworkers tell people where the bathrooms were, and also, where the tram was, and so I could give
You just
detailed directions: turn right, turn left. When you see this, do that. And I had never seen the thing. And it was like, you can do that, but it's still not ever the same when you're talking about this big entity called law school, unless you've been
exactly,
through it. So,
exactly.
yes. Well, that's
And,
great. It's
and without help, I feel like, and so many of my discussions, even though it starts off talking about a personal statement or a resume, it inevitably ends up in like, well, and how did you do this and that? And the other? Like it ends up, we're talking about law school careers 10 years out, so
yeah.
the ability for me to add that too, as you're trying to strategize where you're going to school or what you're going to do in school, that's 3 years because you're looking to do something beyond that. No one gets law degree and then is done with their life. That's
Yeah.
a step for more. So I feel like to be able to answer those questions as well, what's it like being at a big firm? What's it like being in house? What's it like now being, an entrepreneur? All those different ways to use your law degree. What I've seen my other friends who are lawyers, where they have ended up and how they have made those decisions and the different pros and cons. I think that helps too as you're, thinking through where you want to go, help you think a little bit beyond school as well.
Yes. There's definitely a lot of things I've seen in life where if you're not beginning with the end in mind, you're not going to progress as streamlined. I mean, you can still progress, of course, but you might make a lot more mistakes. And some of them, when we're talking about six figures in debt, that could be a really big mistake.
There's a lot less bandwidth.
Yes. So, it's not saying you can't always end up in the same spot. A lot of us do actually. It turns into a hodgepodge eventually, but
Right. You take the scenic route, but you get there eventually.
but yeah, when we're talking six figures, why not get what you think you're paying for?
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, great. Okay, so where can people find you if they want your advice?
JD2B.com. So it's JD and then number two, and then BE. And my name came about because when I first got into law school in college, my sister started making fun of me and they were calling, my name's Pam, but they always called me Pammy, and they were calling me Pammy Jean, JD2B. And so that was like all of my graduation cards were to Pammy B. Jean, JD2B, everything. And so then when 10 year, whatever, 10 years later, when I finally started, I was like, you know what, JD to be is just the right name, because that's what you're going to be, hopefully.
Yeah, that's so funny. It's awesome. It came from a personal nickname and then is a great business name.
Exactly.
Well, Pam, thanks so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Before we get into my top takeaways, a quick word from our sponsor, Juno. If you have to take out student loans, check in with Juno first. Juno can often offer law students 1 to 2% lower interest rates than the federal government, and with no origination fees and oftentimes cash back as well. Visit advisor.legallearningcenter.com/Juno for more information. My top takeaways from our chat with Pam. Number 1, be aware of your timing. You don't really have much control over your letters of recommendation. You need some time for your personal statement, and you should be checking those applications to see if there's extra questions. Overall, you want to get them in by Thanksgiving. Number 2, if you're going to a lower ranked school, you want to stay local to where you're going to work. Build up that network. Number 3, she's a shoot for the stars type of person. So if you are looking to shoot for the stars, you may want to work with Pam. That's it for this episode. All the tips and links will be in the show notes. A full transcript is available at legallearningcenter.com/JD to be. That's with the number 2. And if you enjoyed the show today, please leave a review. It helps the show help more people. Thanks.